Similar scenes also took place across the border in the US, where thousands of left-wing activists showed up to confront a 20-people-strong rally against illegal immigration.
Armies! 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 Come on!
Some 200 riot police attended the scene in order to keep the peace. 2 people were arrested, a left-wing activist for pushing a Trump supporter and an unidentified person with a knife. Tensions between America's left and right have been increasing following the violence in Charlottesville, where a neo-Nazi rammed his car into a crowd of protesters. Rallies similar to the ones in California have taken place across America throughout the week, the largest being seen in the city of Boston. Left-wing protesters showed up to disrupt planned right-wing events, resulting in clashes and arrests. Now, one of the sides has upped the ante by launching a petition on the White House website calling for Antifa to be declared a terrorist organisation. More than 140,000 people have already signed in just 3 days, and now the administration has to issue a response. OK, well, let's discuss this further now. I'm joined by our guest political observer, Andre Walker. Good to have you on the programme, Mr. Walker. Now, what do you make of the tactics being used by the left-wing activists, such as showing up at planned right-wing events? Do you think it's going to help prevent violence or only add to the tensions?
Well, look, all of your viewers have seen the pretty shocking images that you broadcast of people turning up, calling themselves anti-fascists, but actually seeming to be dressed as fascists themselves with the black clothing and their faces covered. It just strikes me that if you turn up to any sort of public event with your face covered, carrying some sort of a bat, then you're there not for legitimate political protest, but rather to cause violence. And I think what we've seen across America, and indeed Canada, is just a very sad indictment of these people. Now, in terms of whether the group should be banned, I'm not sure necessarily the American government's going to be too keen on prescribing lots of organisations as terrorist organisations, but certainly something needs to be done about this level of violence, and the people associated with it ought to be ashamed of themselves.
Well, then exactly how should these left-wing parties be expressing how they feel if they shouldn't be turning up at these right-wing demonstrations?
Well, I think it's a great shame that, you know, this debate about statues, which I think is a legitimate and sensible debate. On the one hand, you don't want to vandalise your culture, your history. But on the other hand, there are latent racial tensions in America, and obviously small towns, or every small town in the South having a statue of a slave master is not necessarily helpful to that. But I think that that is a sensible debate to have within the confines of each individual town and city. I think this travelling circus of the far right turning up and then the anti-fascists turning up as well to have a fight on the streets in front of people really doesn't add anything to that debate whatsoever.
On that note, what are your thoughts on the petition that's been launched in the US calling for Antifa to be declared a terrorist organisation?
Well, as I say, I'm not sure the American government's necessarily going to do that, but I think what it does do, which is extremely helpful, is it gives the ability of the more moderate left in the Democrat Party to distance themselves from these people. Because, I mean, you know, there are people on the left and there are people on the right, and I think in the debate about statues, both of them actually have quite a good point, but they are moderate and kind of sensible people. I think they should all unite with one voice to say that people turning up causing damage. In the case of Trump's inauguration, by the way, millions of dollars of damage were done by these left-wing groups. I think what we need to do is get the sensible Democrats and Republicans together to definitely say that these guys do not act in their name. But worryingly, you know, leaders like Bernie Sanders and others on the left have been very, very slow to condemn the violence by Antifa. I think President Trump had it absolutely right when he said of Charlottesville, yes, of course, there was a terrorist incident, but also there was a protest by left and far right demonstrators, and that was disgraceful. And we ought to condemn both sides.
OK, on that note, political observer Andre Walker, thank you for joining us on the programme.
Thank you.